Mr. Bond.
The name is Bond, James Bond. Just 6 words, but they flipped cinema upside down forever, and it all kicked off with Dr. No back in 1962. Now we're diving into 21 strange, wild, and straight up shocking facts about the movie that launched the biggest spy franchise ever. We're talking secret casting drama, chaotic moments on set, hidden meanings people missed in this American war, and even production disasters that almost ruined everything. And yeah, not the craziest one? That's waiting for you at the very end. This one's strictly for the real fans who know what's up. Welcome back to $21 channel, where every classic gets the spotlight it deserves, no matter how old school it is. Number 1. The Reluctant Secret Agent. Before Sean Connery ever dropped the legendary Bond, James Bond, the role had already been passed on by some of Hollywood's biggest names. Cary Grant, smooth and classy, exactly the kind of guy people pictured, turned it down because he didn't want to get stuck in a long franchise. Then you've got Patrick McGoohan, who later starred in The Prisoner, saying no for personal reasons, since the character's lifestyle and violence didn't sit right with him. Even Ian Fleming had a totally different vision in mind. He imagined someone like Hoagie Carmichael, more worn down, old money cool, and low-key sharp. So when this lesser-known Scottish actor showed up, Fleming wasn't impressed at first. But Connery had this intense, controlled energy that hit different, and the producers saw it right away. That raw presence, it sealed the deal fast, and yet the rest became straight-up history. So tell us down below, which Bond actor really owned the role the hardest in your opinion? Number 2, The $1 Million Gamble. Dr. No was made on a budget of just over $1 million. Yeah, seriously, that's not a typo. Back then, big Hollywood movies were already costing way more, but producers Albert Cubby, Broccoli, and Harry Saltzman had to scrape together just enough cash to even get Bond on screen. It wasn't smooth at all. It was risky from the jump. United Artists basically handed over the money expecting the whole thing to fade out quietly without making noise. But instead, Dr. No exploded and pulled in nearly $60 million worldwide. That's close to a 60-to-1 return, which is wild even by today's standards. Think about it, this was a project backed with low confidence and a lot of doubt, yet it turned into the starting point of one of the longest running and most profitable franchises ever. Funny how the people who believed the least ended up winning the most off it. Number 3. The man who really built Bond. Sean Connery may have played 007 on screen, but behind the scenes, director Terrence Young was the one shaping everything. Young was polished, well-connected, and carried himself like true high society, and he instantly saw Connery had raw talent, but needed serious refinement to match the role. So what did he do? He stepped in and leveled him up completely. He took Connery shopping on Savile Row, showed him how to properly hold a wine glass, how to order like a pro in a fancy restaurant, and how to move through a room with confidence instead of sticking out. There's even talk he had Connery sleep in one of his own expensive suits, just so he'd feel natural wearing that level of style. The goal wasn't to fake elegance, it was to live in it. That smooth, effortless cool everyone connects with Bond, that wasn't just acting, that was training, discipline, and vision. Terrence Young helped turn Bond into an icon, just as much as Ian Fleming ever did. Number 4, Honey Rider's secret voice. That moment when Ursula Andress rises out of the Jamaican Sea in that white bikini, yeah, that's one of the most iconic shots in movie history, no debate. But here's the twist most people still don't catch. The voice you hear in that scene isn't even hers. Ursula Andress had a strong Swiss-German accent, and producers felt it wouldn't connect well with English-speaking audiences, so the entire role got dubbed later by a British actress named Nikki van der Zyl. And here's the wild part. Andress reportedly didn't even know her voice had been replaced until she sat down and watched the finished film. By that point, it didn't slow anything down. She had already blown up into an international star overnight, and that scene became legendary anyway. Meanwhile, Nikki van der Zyl kept working behind the scenes, secretly dubbing multiple Bond girls across the early films. For years, audiences had no clue at all, making this one of the smoothest and most hidden tricks in classic cinema history. Number 5. The bikini that almost didn't happen. That famous white bikini Ursula Andress wore coming out of the Jamaican Sea didn't just make her a star, it completely changed what people expected from a Bond film forever. But here's the crazy part, it almost never made it into the movie at all. Early script versions had Honey Rider stepping onto the beach in a simple white dress. Nothing iconic, nothing bold. It was director Terrence Young who pushed hard for the bikini idea, knowing it would hit way harder on screen, and even then they kept tweaking it, adding that knife belt, which gave her a tougher, more independent vibe instead of just a beach look. That one decision changed everything. The bikini became so legendary it sold for £35,000 at auction in 2001, and years later the impact was still strong. Halle Berry paid tribute in Die Another Day, stepping out of the ocean in an orange bikini that instantly reminded everyone where it all started. Number 6. The fan who changed Bond's gun. In Ian Fleming's original novels, James Bond carried a Beretta .418, a sleek little weapon, but not exactly the most powerful choice for a top-level spy. One reader wasn't feeling it at all. Jeffrey Boothroyd, a firearms expert and serious Bond fan, decided to speak up and wrote Fleming a personal letter back in 1956. In that letter, he argued straight up that the world's most dangerous spy needed something stronger, something more fitting for the job. And here's where it gets wild. Fleming didn't ignore him. He actually listened. He switched Bond's weapon to the Walther PPK in the very next novel, instantly upgrading the character's edge. But it didn't stop there. As a thank you, Fleming even named a character after Boothroyd in the same book. That character would later evolve into Q, the genius behind all of Bond's gadgets and tech. So every time you see Bond pull out that Walther PPK, just remember, it's there because one fan spoke up and changed the game completely. Number 7, the tarantula on his chest. One of Dr. No's most low-key terrifying scenes is when a big tarantula slowly crawls across the sleeping Bond's chest. That moment alone is enough to make anyone uneasy, and behind the scenes things weren't much easier. Sean Connery reportedly had a real fear of spiders, which made filming the sequence especially intense. The crew had to handle everything with extra care, keeping the situation under tight control. There are stories saying a glass pane was secretly placed between Connery and the spider, though that detail has been debated over time. What is confirmed is that a trained professional was on set the entire time, and the tarantula used was a real large species brought in specifically for the scene. No shortcuts, no CGI, just raw practical filmmaking. And that's why the scene hits so hard. The slow crawl, the silence, the helpless feeling, it all builds real tension that you just can't fake. It stands as one of the most uncomfortable and effective moments from the old school era of filmmaking. Number 8, Bond, James Bond. The most famous self-introduction in cinema history, and it all started right here in Dr. No. Bond is at a casino locked into a game of Baccarat when he delivers those legendary words to Sylvia Trench in a way that instantly changes the entire scene. That moment, pure cinema history. What's crazy is how much those 6 words carry. They hit with confidence, a hint of danger, effortless style, and zero hesitation, all packed into under 2 seconds. Mr. Bond, James Bond. Then just like that, the legend begins. Screenwriters Richard Maibaum and Johanna Harwood carefully set the stage, but it was Connery's delivery that turned a simple line into something unforgettable. The timing, the calm stillness, that subtle upward tone, none of that was in the script. That was Connery's instinct kicking in, and it paid off big time. In one moment, a character was fully born, setting the standard for cool that would last for decades. So the question stands, when you think of that iconic line, which Bond actor do you think delivered it the best? Number 9, shaken, not stirred. It all begins right here, and if Bond, James Bond, is the most iconic line in the franchise, then this one is right behind it, no question. In Dr. No, Bond orders a medium dry martini with a twist of lemon, and that simple request turns into something much bigger than just a drink. On the surface, it sounds like casual conversation, but it's packed with meaning. Back in the 1960s, cocktail culture was strict. Stirring a martini was seen as classy and proper, while shaking was viewed as rough and unrefined. Bond choosing to have his drink shaken wasn't just a random detail. It was a statement. That preference showed exactly who he is. He doesn't follow rules just because they exist, and he doesn't care about tradition holding him back. It's a quiet act of defiance that says a lot without him needing to explain anything. Ian Fleming had already used this detail in the novels, but Dr. No was the moment it exploded into global recognition. From that point on, shaken, not stirred, became a permanent part of Bond's identity, recognized everywhere. At number 10, the secret beneath the hair. This is something the cameras always tried to hide, and most people never even noticed. Sean Connery, with all that magnetic on-screen presence, had actually been dealing with hair loss since his early 20s. By the time he stepped into the role of Bond, he was wearing a professionally made hairpiece, and he kept that look consistent in every single Bond film he starred in. The production team worked carefully behind the scenes to make sure nothing gave it away on camera, and for the most part, they pulled it off flawlessly. Connery himself later spoke about it in interviews without any shame, calling it just another part of the job, like a costume, nothing more. That detail might seem small, but it says a lot about how much effort went into building the Bond image. Every piece was intentional, every choice calculated, nothing left to chance. The man who played the most confident spy on screen had a very human side, just like everyone else, and that contrast makes the character even more interesting. If you're enjoying this deep dive into 1962, hit that like button, drop a comment with the fact that surprised you the most, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We drop classic film breakdowns every week, and there's more on the way. Also, tell us in the comments, what James Bond movie should we break down next? Number 11, The Man Behind the Barrel. Before a single line is spoken, before Jamaica, before that first martini even hits the screen, there's that iconic gun barrel sequence. The circle sweeps across, Bond spins, locks in, and fires back with deadly precision. Then comes that striking image, red spilling across white. It's bold, it's clean, and it hits instantly as one of the most recognizable visuals in all of cinema. This sequence was created by title designer Maurice Binder, specifically for Dr. No, and it set the tone for every Bond film that followed. Over time, it became a signature look, with only small changes here and there, but always keeping that same core style intact. Here's the twist most people don't realize. It's not actually Sean Connery in that original gun barrel shot. It was stuntman Bob Simmons stepping into that moment. Connery's version of the shot didn't appear until later films in the franchise. It's a small detail, but it hits hard for true fan. It's the kind of thing that pulls you right back to the beginning, making you want to rewatch everything from the start. Number 12, the theme that sparked a legal war. The James Bond theme is one of the most instantly recognizable pieces of music ever created, but behind that iconic sound is a long, heated dispute that went on for decades. Who really wrote it? That question turned into a legal battle that refused to die down. Officially, the credit goes to Monty Norman, who composed the original melody, but then you've got John Barry, who arranged and produced the version we hear in the film, and he always claimed that the famous guitar riff, the part that makes the theme hit so hard, was largely his own creation. Things escalated when Norman sued the Sunday Times in 2001 after they credited Barry as the true author. Norman won that case, but Barry never backed down from his position, keeping the debate alive long after. What can't be denied is this: both men played a huge role in shaping the final sound. Norman brought the original idea, the foundation. Barry added that sharp edge, that intensity, that unmistakable energy. Together, they created a piece of music that didn't just define Bond, it outlived both of them. Number 13, Jamaica was personal. Dr. No wasn't filmed there just because it looked good on camera. This place meant something real to Ian Fleming. Jamaica was home for him, a place he lived in since the 1940s at his estate called Goldeneye, and that name, it would later return decades down the line as a Bond film title, tying everything back together in a wild way. This island wasn't just a setting, it shaped the entire vibe of Fleming's early Bond stories from the very beginning. Shooting on location brought something raw and authentic that no studio set could ever recreate. The real beaches, the natural light, the heavy heat of the island, it all shows up on screen in a way that just feels alive. For audiences in post-war Britain, that bright Jamaican sun almost felt like a character of its own. It pulled people in, selling the fantasy completely and offering an escape from everyday life, choosing Fleming's own. Paradise as the backdrop wasn't random at all. It was a bold move that gave the film its soul and set the tone for everything that followed. Number 14. Bond's first car wasn't an Aston Martin. Ask any casual fan and they'll instantly say Aston Martin, no hesitation. And yeah, that's true, but not in Dr. No. In the very beginning, Bond is actually driving a Sunbeam Alpine Series 2, a sleek, low-slung British sports car that fit the character perfectly and looked effortlessly cool cruising through the Jamaican roads. That early ride had style without trying too hard. It blended right into the setting, matching Bond's calm, confident vibe before the franchise turned everything up to the max. But things didn't stay that way for long. The iconic Aston Martin DB5 didn't arrive until Goldfinger in 1964. That's when everything changed. The car came loaded with gadgets and attitude, and it became so tied to Bond's identity that most people now picture it instantly when they think of 007. The Sunbeam Alpine, though, is a quiet piece of history. It represents a more understated version of Bond, clean, simple, and grounded. But once Goldfinger hit and raised the bar, the early image faded fast. It's a small detail, but it shows just how quickly the franchise leveled up and changed the game. Number 15, Fleming watched and changed his mind. Ian Fleming, the man who created James Bond himself, was right there during filming in Jamaica, and let's just say he was not easy to impress. At first, he had serious doubts about Connery, even reportedly calling him something like an overgrown stuntman, far from the refined, almost aristocratic image he had written on the page. But then something unexpected happened. As Fleming watched Connery in action, the tone shifted completely. The way he carried himself, that calm authority, the controlled danger, it all came together in a way that just felt right. It wasn't forced, it wasn't polished into existence. It was natural. By the end of filming, Fleming had done a full 180. He praised the adaptation and openly acknowledged that Connery had tapped into something essential about Bond that even the books didn't fully capture. For a man known for being a perfectionist and highly proud, that kind of change of heart says everything. When the creator of Bond himself admits the portrayal works, that's not just approval, that's validation at the highest level. Number 16, Spectre's first shadow. Dr. No doesn't stand alone. He answers to Spectre, the special executive for counterintelligence, terrorism, revenge, and extortion. That's a mouthful, but the impact, massive. Dr. No was the first time this organization appeared on screen, and it introduced one of the most powerful ideas in the entire Bond universe. We're talking about a criminal empire with no nation, no loyalty, and no limits. They're not tied to any flag. They operate purely for power and profit. That concept alone made them feel dangerous in a completely different way. What really made Spectre hit hard in the early 1960s was how it sidestepped real-world politics. During the height of the Cold War, most spy stories were pointing fingers at East versus West, but Spectre wasn't playing that game. They weren't Soviet, they weren't Western, they were something far more unsettling. That choice kept the films from feeling like propaganda and helped them stay timeless. Instead of being locked into one political moment, Bond's stories stayed flexible, dangerous, and relevant across decades. It's one of those creative decisions that seemed simple at first, but ended up shaping the entire tone of the franchise. Number 17, The Villain with Metal Hands. In Ian Fleming's novel, Dr. Julius No stands out as one of the most unsettling creations ever put into a Bond story. His background is intense. Born to a German missionary father and a Chinese mother, rejected by the criminal Tong he once served, and then punished in a brutal way that changed him forever. His hands were cut off and replaced with cold mechanical metal pincers. That injury didn't just leave a mark on his body, it shaped everything about who he becomes. The film keeps that chilling detail intact, and it works on screen in a big way. The character carries this cold, clinical menace, and Joseph Wiseman leans all the way into it with a performance that feels distant and unsettling. There's no warmth in his presence, no hesitation, no sign of humanity breaking through at any moment. It's that emptiness that makes him so disturbing. Many Bond historians point to Dr. No as one of the most unsettling villains in the entire franchise because he doesn't feel like someone making choices. He feels like a force built for control and destruction, and that's what makes him hit so hard. Number 18. The film that was never supposed to come first. Here's where things get really interesting, and we're getting closer to that bonus fact we've been hinting at. Dr. No was not originally meant to kick off the Bond franchise. Producers Broccoli and Saltzman actually had their sights set on Thunderball instead, another Fleming novel that already had a screenplay in motion. But then everything hit a wall. A legal battle with screenwriter Kevin McClory erupted as he claimed partial ownership over the story and its characters. That turned the rights into a messy, unresolved situation that couldn't be cleared up quickly. So the producers had no choice. They had to pivot fast. They needed a Bond film they could actually produce, and Dr. No was the one they could move forward with. And just like that, everything changed. The entire direction of the franchise, the cast, the tone, the setting, even the way Bond was introduced to the world was all shaped by that legal dispute. Think about that for a second. A story that wasn't even supposed to lead the way ended up launching one of the biggest film franchises in history. And what's coming next? That bonus fact goes even deeper. Number 19. Too dangerous for some countries. When Dr. No hit theaters, it didn't land softly everywhere. Censors in multiple countries weren't comfortable with what they saw. The mix of sexuality, action, and a villain with German and Asian heritage sparked concerns across different regions for different reasons. In several places, the Honey Rider scenes were cut down heavily to tone things back. In the UK, the British Board of Film Censors gave the movie an X certificate, meaning no one under 16 could watch it. For what was supposed to be a mainstream adventure film, that was a serious limitation. It could have slowed everything down, but instead, it did the opposite. The restrictions only made people more curious. Audiences, especially younger ones, found ways to watch it anyway. The buzz grew, the debates heated up, and critics couldn't stop talking about it. That controversy became part of the film's identity. Dr. No didn't come across as safe entertainment. It felt a little risky, a little bold, and that edge made it stand out. In 1962, that sense of danger wasn't a problem. It was exactly what pulled people in and made the film impossible to ignore. Number 20, The First Bond Girl Wasn't What You Think. Ursula Andress as Honey Rider didn't just set the standard for what a Bond girl looks like, she flipped the whole idea on its head. The label Bond girl doesn't even fully fit here. Honey isn't passive, not even close. She shows up carrying a knife, ready to handle herself, with her own mission and her own backstory. She's tough, independent, and not impressed at all by Bond's reputation. In one moment, she basically shuts him down, making it clear she moves on her own terms. I'm getting out when I'm ready, and that's never in daylight. For 1962, that kind of character in a mainstream action film was rare. It challenged expectations and gave audiences something different. The term Bond girl was born from this film, but the reality is way more complex than the label suggests. Director Terrence Young reportedly framed her entrance very intentionally, aiming for a powerful, almost mythic image. Like Venus rising from the sea, the shot was designed to feel iconic from the very first frame, and that's exactly what it became. Number 21, the bonus fact that almost never happened. This is the one we promised would change everything. Before Dr. No ever got the green light, Ian Fleming's Bond novels had been optioned, pitched, and dropped more times than people can count. Studios kept passing on it, not convinced a British spy could ever turn into a global hit. The rights were scattered, the interest was shaky, and no major studio was ready to take the risk. Then Broccoli and Saltzman stepped in and gathered the rights, pushing the idea to United Artists. But even then, the reaction was barely enthusiastic. The studio only agreed to fund the film because they expected a small loss, something safe, something quiet. The budget they gave reflected that mindset, low, cautious, and honestly not very encouraging. They weren't betting on a franchise. They were just accepting a gamble they didn't fully believe in. But then everything flipped. Against all the doubt, all the hesitation, and all the low expectations, Dr. No delivered something completely different. It didn't just make money, it created a legacy that people are still watching, analyzing, and talking about more than 60 years later. This wasn't just a movie, it built a fantasy, a world of cool danger, sun-soaked adventure, and effortless style that hadn't really existed like this before. And it all came together for just $1 million with an unknown Scottish actor, a model whose voice was replaced, and a studio that barely believed in the idea at all. 60 years on, we're still watching it, still breaking it down, still amazed by how it all started. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button and lock it in. Consider it your license to be brilliant. Drop a comment with the fact that surprised you the most because we want to hear what stood out to you. And don't forget to subscribe to 21's channel so you never miss a classic breakdown like this. Should we dive deeper into Sean Connery's Bond films next or explore another chapter in the Bond legacy? Tell us below what you want to see next because the story isn't over yet. The mission continues. See you on the next one.